Your point about Stoicism somewhat removing you from the world, I think that that's true. And if you're already you're already introverted, you're already an introspective person, you're a literary person, and then you have this strange job, and then Stoic philosophy. I could imagine it there's no way, not no way, but I suspect he was a distant, somewhat removed person, right? And that can be traumatic and hard for a child to wrap their head around. I mean, it's something I have to work on. It's like, oh wait, I have these kids. I can't. I have to live in their world. I can't live in my world. And that's a. I mean, that's a relatively modern parenting insight.
Yeah.
When you read Marcus, you don't get the sense that this is a super connected, um, at ease with himself kind of a person. There's a distance there.
The only time when he emerges as someone at ease is when he retreats, when he talks about stepping back, finding a quiet place, and returning to kind of first principles, which also for me is one of the most touching aspects of the book. Because I mean that really that resonates for me. You
Mm-hmm.
you we do, I think, tend to feel that if we want to get away and sit on our own for a bit, that's like it's a slightly embarrassing trait that we have. You know, that's a sort of failure. And actually, again, here it is, the most powerful man in the world telling us go away, find a quiet spot, retreat into yourself, and then know what to do with that, so it doesn't just become stewing. And the idea of having a few simple principles that you return to in those times. I thought that was just sort of wonderful because that again, it's that thing of life pulling you towards the difficult center where it feels really isolating. We've all lived through COVID lockdown, so that's
Yeah.
a really great play out of that. A literal play out of this idea that things that isolate us are actually the things that we're all connected with. So, there across 2,000 years, across, from me to someone who's the most powerful man in the world is somebody who just needs to get away and sit down and gather himself.
He would have known, like, hey, I can't go outside. There's a plague going on. He would have experienced that sort of forced isolation also.
And there is no talk of self-esteem, or anything. I mean, obviously it's before the days of
Yeah.
that even being a thing, but again, that's really nice. I like this. I like the idea that I think we should forget about self-esteem. I think if we can find a way of gathering ourselves afresh and then stepping out into the world and taking some responsibility amidst our mess, that's like that's what we should be aiming for. That's enough, and that's huge. And again, it's really refreshing. Only because it's of its time that
Yeah.
there's none of that. There's none of there's no talk of things like self-esteem.
I am thinking though that there is kind of a theme of loneliness in meditations. I mean, at one point he says, life is warfare and a journey far from home. I imagine being emperor would have been it's a job no one can relate to. There's no one else alive that has had the same experiences as you. Everyone wants something from you. You're also, busy and you have to make hard decisions. Uh, there's something about, I think, the life of a performer that's a little bit like that. Those few quiet moments before you go on stage when you're trying to come up with your next thing. There's something, I wonder if perhaps why meditation struck you and why you like it might be similar to me, which is that there is a kind of loneliness and isolation. First off, you're already introverted or drawn to that kind of stuff in the first place. That's what drove you to say figure out magic and spend hundreds and hundreds of hours, thousands of hours trying to master certain things. But then the actual day-to-dayness of it as a profession, there's kind of a distance and a loneliness that it creates, even if you're performing for thousands of people or on a television show for millions of people.
Yeah, I mean, and those sort of artificial social situations like performing on stage.
Yeah.
Uh, that's like clearly has no bearing on how lonely it doesn't stop you from feeling lonely if you do. I
Sure.
very much enjoy it, and for me it's like a part of myself that because you get to be a very well rehearsed and charismatic version of yourself on stage. That's a nice thing to do, night after night.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy that, and I also enjoy I think you find meaning in life by finding something bigger than yourself and throwing yourself into that, and whether that's a religious belief or
Yeah.
doing a tour. You know, it's something to uh, absorb you. And I when I stop doing it, I like a lot of performers get quite sort of irritable and miserable. When I
Yeah.
wrote this book, Happy, many years ago, which was the book about Stoicism, um, I I finished it and then went on a bit of a tour of talking about these ideas to people, and I was really unhappy, and it was odd. I sort of felt this. I felt like I was such a hypocrite. I couldn't work out why, and then I just realized, oh, it's because I'm not writing the book anymore. Like
Yeah.
that engagement in something is so is so vital. And you know, well, for a lot of us that do that kind of thing, I think without it, suddenly you're a bit lost. But it's interesting that the loneliness thing. There's another line of his, which I'll paraphrase, but which there are moments in this book, I think, where it stops you in your tracks.